Okay, and welcome to another How to Play. This time we're talking about Trap Monsters. This is a deck that I've been playing since 2012. I feel like if there's anyone out there that knows how this deck works, it's me. We're going to start by getting one little bit out of the room. This is not Paleo. If you want Paleo, look for a Paleo video. Paleo are not trap monsters. They are traps. They come back as normal monsters, but they are never both at the same time. So don't start on Paleo. This is not every trap monster in the game. This is a lot of them. This is not all of them. We're going to quickly go through all of these, and we're going to get rid of some of them. First up, Lord of the Heavenly Prison. This is not a trap monster, but this is a monster that protects your face-down traps and is just so inherently part of any good trap deck. Well, not any good trap deck, but trap monsters, yeah, this is definitely a card that goes in trap monsters. Abyss Stingray, this is a great card. It is a light level 5, which means it can make Pleiades. And also is kind of good with hand traps to make level 8 synchros. That's pretty much it. It can't be destroyed by battle. That's not really a hindrance for any deck. But you never know. Come on. It has. I've seen, as long as you have like an Imperial custom to defend this, it's pretty good. In which case I should also add that. Next up, Altergeist Amulet Health. There's only one Altergeist trap monster, so this thing's effect almost never comes up. You would have to have 2 of this on the field for it to have protection from destruction and targeting card effects. It's fine. Honestly, it has utility outside of being a trap monster that makes this a playable trap monster. So this does actually hit our list of playable. Azaroon. This is it's like a Thunder King, essentially. It negates an inherent summon by attributing itself or any other trap monster. Also, if it's destroyed by battle, it destroys whatever destroyed it. It's an 1800 attack and defense. It's a light. It's level 4. It's just got all the good things. Any trap monster that's level 4 immediately becomes far more playable. This thing is a level 2 and only works in some World Legacy combos. Get rid of it. Cyber Shadow Gardener. This one cannot be used as an Xyz material because it sets itself at the end of the turn. And it's still somewhat playable. Depending on your build, you can actually get away with playing this card. Because it sets itself at the end of the turn, it can only be activated in the opponent's turn, which is a bother, and only in the main phase, also a bother. But it lets you proc Statue of Anguish pattern every single one of your opponent's turns. It's a bit slow for today's standards. And bottom of Apopus, this is like the 6th best level 4 trap monster. If you need one that has no effect, a normal monster that can only be summoned in the main phase, sure, but realistically get rid of it. It's terrible. Next we have these 3. This is the 3 Eldritch traps. These are trap monsters. So if you're familiar with Eldritch, you'll be familiar with the fact that trap monsters are a bit weird. These are also, 2 of them are level 5 lights. This one's a level 8 light. It has terrible stats and a really mediocre effect. Eldritch doesn't play this. We don't play this. These 2, however, level 5 lights, just like Abyss Stingray, they can make Pleiades. They're also treated as normal monsters. Their effects are really good as long as you control Eldritch the Golden Lord, and you can quite easily play an Eldritch trap monster variant, where you're playing these as well as your Statue of Anguish and a couple of other things like Azaroon, which can then tribute these to negate summons. Great, good job, go for it. I'm not here to teach you how to play Eldritch, because there are people out there that are better than me at that. So we'll get rid of these for now. They are still real trap monsters, and are very good trap monsters, and that is a very good deck. Go for it. I think it's a little, there's some downsides to it and some reasons why I'm personally not playing an Eldritch variant at the moment, but I have in the past, and I probably will again in the future. Next we have, what is this? Crystal Avatar? This says when an opponent's monster declares a direct attack, so we're already getting rid of it. So this is a trap that can only be activated when your opponent declares a direct attack that would kill you. Machine King, this has terrible stats, but is an easy one to summon. This is like the 8th or 9th best level 4 trap monster. It's level 4, that's good. Everything else about it is kind of mid. I probably wouldn't even bother at this point. Metal Reflect Slime is crazy. It's a level 10, so it lets you go into trains alongside Lord of Heavenly Prison and Eldritch the Golden Lord, so very accessible into train XEs or any other rank 10s. It also just turns into this. It's a 3k wall, and then it turns into Egyptian God Slime, and then punches people in the face. This is very playful. Everything about this card has always been somewhat playable ever since Gustav released, because that made this, if you had two of it, you could make Gustav. Now it's like, Gustav's cool, but we can also make God Slime, which is just really good. This has to target a level 4 machine you control. You can technically play a level 4 machine variant of Trap Monsters, but you gain no advantage from doing so. You're just playing a slightly worse deck. Next up is Manable Fortress. Again, targeting level 4 or higher monster you control, special summons it, and then equips that monster to this. If it didn't equip it, sure, but it does, so no. This elephant is level 2. It has a really nice effect. Other than that, it can change its type and attribute or something else's type and attribute as a quick effect. Really cool, but it is level 2. If it wasn't level 2, this would be far more playable. What does this even do? Special summon as an earth monster, then you can equip a gadget. It has terrible stats, and is only good if you're playing gadgets. Terrible. This is a level 4. It lets you choose its type and attribute. Please understand that is great. It is also treated as a normal monster. Some things only affect monsters. It doesn't come up a lot, but it does come up. Something to keep an eye on. VFD is banned. If they ever bring back the True Draco XEs, whatever it is, True King XEs, then yeah, this is a great card. Play it. At 3, I mean. It's a trap monster and does all that. You can play like a Shadow variant if you really wanted to, but it just doesn't work. I'm sorry. I've tried it. It doesn't function. This card is only good if you are exactly playing that True King rank 9 or some other really good rank 9, but until then, bye. Shapeshifter is a level 2 tuner, really good for getting your level 4 monsters to make Bryanak. Do you know how bad it is to have Bryanak in a deck that sets 5 and passes? Terrible. Space Drakes is just as bad. It's a level 1 tuner. You tell me what level 5 this deck needs access. And then other tuners cannot be destroyed by battle. It's just all card effects. You're not playing other tuners. Get rid of it. This card is nuts. Insane. It is not even once per turn. It's not even a soft once per turn. Every single time you summon a trap monster, destroy a card. They stack. If you have 2, you summon a trap monster, you destroy 2 cards. 3, you win the game. Okay, it's basically Exodia. It's a 2500 untargetable as long as you have another trap monster, which you generally will. 2 of these together, you've got 2 untargetable 2500s that pop cards on a regular basis, either player's turn, as quick, well, not quite quick effects, semi-quick effects, kind of like the Osatics when they summon. Just a brilliant card all round. Love it. This is terrible because it's just part of the machine build and doesn't do anything. It has 3000 attack if you control 3 cards that no one plays. Good job. This is exactly the same as Quantum Cat, but it has attack points. This is really weird. If your opponent's monster declares a direct attack, goodbye. The first Monarch is a level 6 trap monster. It's not really a lot of good level 6s. There's not any real reason to play a level 6, so we'll get rid of that too. Dicky Curse requires battle to get its effect off. Otherwise, it's just an 1800 beta. That's fine. 1800 is fine for a beta, but it doesn't do much else. So I probably wouldn't bother with it now. The effect to pop things does not come up because that requires you battling opponent's monsters. You're not going to be doing that when this guy kills them all. This is still playable. This is a really good trap monster. Any time a trap monster other than itself is destroyed, it sets back to the spell trap zone instead of going to the grave. If you have 2 Tiki Souls and they die at the same time to like a Dark Hole, they'll set each other. So this is cool. Cool card. Zoma is 1800. It summons in defense, so you got to remember, summon this in your opponent's end phase. in your turn, then you can swap to attack and attack. If something does destroy it by battle, it burns them for that thing's attack. So if they got a 3k beater and they punch this and kill it, they take 3,000 life points. Now, your opponent's generally not going to run into this. That would be stupid, but you can just run it into their monster. Sometimes there's no way for them to stop you doing that and just burning them for game. And then Imperial Custom means that all trap monsters on the field cannot be destroyed by card effects or battle. So, yay. All continuous traps cannot be destroyed by card effects or battle, which is a really weird thing to say, that traps can't be destroyed by battle, but it's because it applies to trap monsters. It used to just say cannot be destroyed. They have written it just to make it a little clearer to understand, which personally, I think that makes things a little confusing for new players. Why would a trap card be destroyed by battle? These guys don't really stay on the field enough. I'd play this at 1 tops. You don't want to see it that often. As I said, it's destruction protection, sounds great, but half the time you're going to turn these into extra deck cards anyway. The reason to play this deck is in the near future, we're getting this, a Purpose Swamp Deity. It summons as a level 6 2k monster, and then you negate the effects of face-up cards your opponent controls up to the number of continuous traps you control. So it is just a negate of the whole board. Okay, you can negate up to 5 things if you've got enough trap monsters in the field. No, wait, sorry, you can negate way more than that if you've got, like, also macro and stuff. So you could have 5 trap monsters in the front row and then, like, 4 continuous other traps in the back row. Huge negation opportunity. It's just face-up cards. It doesn't have to be monsters. It's just really good. And I believe it negates on summon, right? Yeah, it's a normal monster. It negates on summon. So you activate it, it comes out and negates all in the one effect. Just insane. It is interruption. You can honestly play this on its own. Oh, it's other continuous traps. But still, you only need 1 guy and it's still a negate at any time. It's basically a breakthrough skill and a body. You have just 1 guy, but if you have a whole board, it's crazy. Yeah, start playing this deck now just to learn it, so that you can play this at full power when it's got this thing. It's cracked. Egyptian God Slam, it's only in here because of Meta Reflect. It's just so easy to summon. And then Time Thief Redoer. This card is crazy. There is another Time Thief too. We should probably get the double barrel in here too, just to look at these. These are not the boss monsters of Time Thief. These are the boss monsters of trap monsters. They have 3 effects, and it is based on whether or not you control, based on their materials, right? They banish this card till the end phase, and then, like, drawing a card. They're cool, but when you summon this in another deck, you're hoping that you'll take a trap off the top of your opponent's deck to get this effect, because it is so strong. In this deck, it starts with the trap effect. Okay, you can make it with a monster and a trap to get both, or you can make it with 2 traps and fire that twice, no matter what your opponent's playing. Beautiful. And then double barrel, obviously its best effect is the snatch steal, but hey, negating the effects of a monster until the end of the turn, not a bad thing either. It's just great. Very good. The downside is I haven't been able to get my hands on a double barrel. I've looked for a fair while. But hey, we're going to look at some deck ideas. We're going to look at one nice cheap deck and one slightly more expensive deck. There's not going to be a lot of difference between the two. This deck is really budget. Obviously, in this current format, we do have a very dominant deck in tier elements. So this is one of the reasons that you could consider trap monsters, because it can natively play Dimension Shifter. So let's have a look at this cheapish build. I would say it's pretty cheap. You can get this for easily under 100, probably looking at 80 maybe. And that's only because you would have to buy 3 Crystal Beast Structure Deck to get these and the Ash Blossoms and the Ghost Bells. However, if you've already got those, you're dropping your price from, 80 to 100 to a good $20 deck. Very, very affordable in that situation where you've already got stuff. And that's the thing. I do want to incorporate the fact that you should already have these cards if you are playing the game. If you have $60 to spend on Yu-Gi-Oh, get 3 of the Crystal Beast Structure Deck and just play that for a bit. If you get more money to spend on Yu-Gi-Oh, then you've already got your staples, your Ash Blossoms, and your Dimension Shifters. Let's go through this deck. Now, as I said, we are playing this purely because Dimension Shifter is available. and that is the #1 reason to play this deck in this current format. Now, Eltergeist Marionetta sets Amulet Elf from the deck. I mentioned earlier Amulet Elf does nothing. That's the reason that we're playing Marionetta, is to set it from the deck. This gives us an extra body on the field, as well as setting up a trap monster quite easily. It sets it from the deck so it can't be Ash Blossomed. This is just a nice little 1-2 combo that just starts you off. It's really good to see early game, it's good to see mid game, and it's good to see late game. It's just good at all times. This is the only normal summon in your deck too. You're not normal summoning, so you're not losing anything by wasting your normal summon on an otherwise mediocre, possibly even bad card. 2 Ash Blossom, everything searches. 3 Dimension Shifter, everything uses the grave. The downside to this is seeing anything after turn 1, but it can just really reduce the fact that your deck takes 3 turns to actually get going. First turn, set everything. Second turn, summon things. Third turn, you can attack and play the game. This turns off the first 2 turns for your opponent too, so it's fine. And you never use the graveyard in this. There's this card, Booby Trap E or something. Don't play it. You're just negging for no reason. Lava Golem. Now, one other hindrance this deck has is it doesn't really play through a lot of negates. So if your opponent puts out 2 guys that say negate, say they've put out Barone Borrowload or something, just drop a Lava Golem on them. Boom. It's removal, and it is so easy to get rid of in this deck. You could chump block it with a Metal Reflect Slime for 20 turns, or you can pop it with Anguish. It's fine. Because you don't summon in your turn, Gamma is amazing, right? You set your traps, you pass turn with a Gamma still in hand. You've got all your trap monsters ready to go, and you can Gamma the first thing they do as on top of that. So even though you're setting up your board, you're not putting a monster down, except for this, obviously. And you can just Gamma them in their turn, even though you're going first. It's really good. Driver is in here for Gamma. But yeah, no, Gamma is just a remarkably good card, especially in a deck that doesn't put a lot of monsters on the board. Call by the Grave should be in every deck. Pot of Desires. Nothing in the deck is essential. Like, nothing at all. If you banish all your trap monsters or all your Anguish, you just play other things. If you banish all your Amulet Elves, then this is just a level 4 vanilla. That's probably the worst thing you can do. The only problem is banishing Driver, obviously. Do be wary of that, but realistically, if it's past the first turn, it doesn't matter if you lose Driver, and if you've opened the Gamma, you can get the Driver out of deck nice and easy before you Desires. Pot of Duality is just a really good card. You are summoning in your opponent's turn almost 100% of the time. The only thing this conflicts with is your extra deck and Lava Golem. Everything else you could just continue on with as if the Pot of Duality has no downside. It's beautiful in this deck. The only reason I run 2 of this and 2 of this is so I don't see 2 more copies of either one of them off of their own effect. Oh, and also this is semi-limited. But yeah, that's why you'll see a lot of things I run 2 of, because I don't want a duality and see 3 of a card. Lava Golem, for example. The 3 Amulet Elf. This is only in here because Marionetta searches it, sets it to the field, but it's a really strong little combo. This card is surprisingly good because it's searchable, it's always available on your field. Yeah, and it's a level 4, so easy Xyz place. Azaroon is just really good. It is a negate. A summon negate on a trap card that has 1800 attack, and your opponent doesn't want to run it over. It's just a really good card. It doesn't have to tribute itself, but it can in dire situations. But if you Marionetta, set Azaroon, you can put it up with the Amulet Elf, and you tribute the Amulet Elf. You haven't lost anything. It's great. Metal Reflect Slime is kind of unnecessary in this build. You really don't need it. Sometimes you want to stop that Lava Golem punching you a few times. You can easily just put in any other card. There's the Abyss Stingray is 1900. You could play that over this. The other thing this gets you into is rank 10s at the moment, because we don't have, if we're playing a low budget build, we obviously don't have the money to fork out for a couple of these. If you do, if you've got one, go for it. Beautiful. It is definitely preferred to a lot of the other stuff we're playing. 3 quantum cap. You choose its type and attribute, which means it's a dinosaur and a water, or a dark in a pinch, or a spellcaster if you're trying to stop spells. It's whatever you need it to be. It's beautiful. Swamp Mirror does the exact same thing. It just has attack instead of defense. These 2 cards are so good for this deck if you're playing an Xyz build. If you're not going into anything that needs types and attributes, then put in Tiki Souls or whatever. Swamp Mirror is still fine being 1800, but Tiki Curse is that little bit better if you don't care for your types and attributes at all, but you should. You should care for types and attributes because Evil Czars are really good. Anguish is fine, I guess. Probably don't play its back. No, it's insane. Genuinely insane. It is a level 7, which means it doesn't go into your XEs, but you don't want to take this off the board anyway. It's just crazy. You do not want to turn this into a Draco Sack or a Big Eye because you're losing the ability to pop everything. Opening 2 of this and 3 trap monsters is 7 pops in your opponent's first turn. That's crazy. Okay? 2 of this and 2 other trap monsters. It's still 5 destruction effects. 5 removals. Even 1 of this and 3 trap monsters is 3 removals. 3 things they put out, you just remove. It stops them getting into their extra deck very well, and it stops them using any trap cards of their own, because anything they set, if you still haven't used all your trap monsters, you can activate it with the end phase and remove their cards. Beautiful, beautiful work. The downside is it's not instant speed destruction, because you've got to resolve the chain, summon the trap monster, and then it triggers in the new chain. So it doesn't stop things like, on activation effect of a field spell. But otherwise it's good. Otherwise it is just a phenomenal card. Lots of removal. Very hard to out because they can't target it as long as you trigger another trap monster. Always make sure you activate the other trap monster and then Anguish. And then when the chain resolves, the Anguish will summon, the other trap monster will summon, triggering Anguish because it was already on the field, and at no point in that chain is Anguish targetable on the field as a monster. It can be targeted in the background when they flip it up, but yeah. Imperial Custom means that your trap monsters cannot be destroyed by battle. So it cannot be targeted or destroyed by battle. Macrocosmos is just a 4th dimension shifter, basically, if you're going first. Again, banishing your cards has no cost. Solemn Judgment is an Omni Negate, very good card, just stops something. Sometimes your opponent will just have the Feather Duster, and you will need this. It's much better in the more monetary build, the more expensive build, where you have access to Lord of Heavenly Prison to search it. Crazy. And Zoma is kind of like the 38th and 39th and 40th card here. You realistically don't need this many trap monsters. You can play a couple less, maybe 5 or so less, thanks to Marionetta searching to them. And this is really just a level 4 vanilla that, if it's destroyed in battle, burns them. Extra deck. This is the important part. This is hard to out. That's it. That's all it is. It's just hard to out. I think it can protect. It can protect Anguish if they do go for it, but it's not going to come up that often that you've got Anguish and Dora on the field. 2 redoers. This card is nuts. Any 2 level 4 trap monsters makes it, and then it removes 2 cards and puts them on top of the deck. You can ruin your opponent's draw. It's just so strong. And if you get a monster, it's got protection. That's what the Marionetta also can do. Double barrel, this thing is also crazy, has a negate option. There's very few situations where you want this over redoer, but it does come up. The 2 evil czars, if your opponent's going to activate a lot of monster effects, then obviously you want Dolka. If you're worried more about spells and traps or summons, then the Lagia, you're only getting 1 negate out of it, but hey, it's an Omni negate. It's good. It's basically just judgment in a spell card, in a monster card. Really good. Dweller is strong this format, just insane in almost every format, but especially this format. Very good card to have access to. Baguska. Oh no, I bricked. I'll play my Baguska. And well, it's like a turn 3 Baguska at best, so not great. Toad and Bahamut Shark, I believe these are cheap right now, or at least like a rare or common Toad is pretty cheap. These go really well because you can choose to make these guys water or dinosaur and access them very easily. You have 6 of them. And then extra deck is just pretty much staple stuff that removes stuff. The Dark Charmer lets you go into Nightmare Unicorn if your opponent's on Darks, which tier is right now. So yay. And then we have a Last Warrior because we're siding through Waking the Dragon. Your opponent is going to be trying to destroy back row. If your opponent is siding for Mystic Mind, they have things like Feather Duster and Cosmic Cyclone, and they will side them in because you're playing trap monsters. So side in these, give them something else to hit, drop a Last Warrior on them. It's funny. Ultimate Falcon is an option too, but I think that's a little harder to come by. I personally don't have one. In the side, we've got 2 Gamma Seals. Sometimes Lava Golem isn't enough. Sometimes your opponent's playing Sky Striker and you can't Lava Golem. So Gamma Seal, good. This is just extra graveyard negation. It's fine. Secret Village and Spellcasters. Sometimes your opponent isn't playing Spellcasters, but they're playing a deck with heavy spells. Now, this is a Spellcaster. These are Spellcasters, and these can be Spellcasters if you should so choose, as well as this is also a Spellcaster. You have access to Spellcasters. There's no reason that you can't put this in a pinch, and it's so accessible. Like, you've got it online all the time, and worst case scenario, you play 5 spells. Oh no. Like, you're not really going to get too punished by this guy. Necro Valley, it's essentially just another Macrocosmos, really. Kind of. It's another Dweller. Feather Duster and Cyclones, you do lose the mind. They are still monsters. And then Anti-Spell Fragrance, again, stop spell effects. Very good against like Pendulum decks and stuff like that. And it's a little less... Like, there's a little less chance of it not working, like there is with Secret Village. It doesn't rely on you having particular monsters. And then this is obviously for the sideboard game. That's Trap Monsters. That's a real budget deck of Trap Monsters. The non-budget deck is going to be this with like 7 different cards at most. But we'll get into that now, I guess. And here we go. We are back. We've made barely any changes to the deck. I've added in 2 Lord of Heavenly Prison instead of the Zone of the Spirits. This card is cracked. It searches Solemn Judgment. Do you understand how good it is to have a card that says add Solemn Judgment from your deck to your hand? It can search any trap monster in a pinch, but you need to be using it in your next turn to overlay, otherwise it will just get banished. Now, we've also added a Daruma Cannon instead of Imperial Custom. Imperial Custom doesn't come up much now. People are banishing back row, and people can just remove the Imperial Custom. It doesn't really do anything for you. It seems like a good thing to make your cards immortal, but it does nothing. This can interrupt your opponent, it can remove links, it can remove unstoppable cards, like Ultimate Falcon that we're now playing. And also, in a very, very desperate pinch, where you need to remove mine, you can make a link monster and Daruma Cannon yourself. Yeah, sure. Let's snake 3. Just it gets rid of mine, kind of, very rarely. No, it does. It has come up once, and it's enough reason for me to continue playing the one. It's not very. It does actually reset all of your trap monsters. So when it triggers, all your trap monsters go face down and move back to the spell and trap zone because they're face down, which lets you get off more Pulse with Anguish if you have a whole bunch of them, as well as be a potential pseudo removal thing. Setting all their cards face down isn't the worst thing in the world against some decks, especially ones that need the extra deck. Down here we've added 2 nibs instead of the Cyclones, and then we've added the Falcon instead of one of the Bells. It's just a little less. You need all the slots in your extra deck now, so we're unfortunately siding this, and we'll just take something out for it when we need to. We have added to the extra deck a Zeus, because hey, if you've got the money for a Zeus, play a damn Zeus. This deck already makes Xyz. So you can make Bahamut Shark, make the Toad, punch them with the Toad, and then turn the Bahamut Shark into a Zeus. Good. And then obviously, 2 Egyptian God Slime because we're running 2 Mineral Reflect Slime. If you want 1 Mineral Reflect Slime, drop it to 1. Easy. These are pretty easy to side out as well. It does come up that you will sometimes see 2 of them in the opening hand, which is why you do want 2 Egyptian God Slimes. That's pretty much it. There's not much changes when we go into this more expensive build, because it's just a really cheap deck, even without all that. Like, even with all this stuff, it's still very, very affordable, in my opinion. How nice the solo mode with trap monsters. This hand is really wild. We're going to start with Pot of Duality. We banish the top three. What are we taking? In this situation, we're going to take this. We don't need the Lava Golem because we can't summon it anyway. And then the Daruma Cannon is a Daruma Cannon. This card is actually really bad. I like it. I find it funny. We're going to summon the Altergeist Marionetta, which turns off our Gammas, unfortunately. They're live for this, I guess. I also feel free to play a Cyframe Amiga if you've got the opportunity. It means your Gammas can turn into that. So here we're going to activate this and set a Emulatel to the back row. Metal Reflect Slime. We've got a Lord of Heavenly Prison to activate, which will set whatever we want from the deck to the back row. Just depends what we need. This is a really easy one to do test hands on because you're playing traps, right? It's just set 5 pass. So here again, we Marionetta, we're getting a card, and we're setting 4. It's 4 back row. We have a Gamma in hand we can't do anything with because Marionetta is going to be on the field. If you do really want the Gamma negate, I just set 3 pass. That's not really the end of the world. Two Ash Blossoms. That's fine. We do have 3 removals here, as well as we can make any card in our extra deck, I believe. Almost any. But pretty much anything else we can make quite easily because we have access to Lugia, Doka, Bahama Shark. But most of the time you're just going to go for Redoer, right? Lugia and Doka are good, but Redoer is multiple removals and protection on itself. And it's just a really strong card. And a lot of the time you are going to find yourself going into Redoer before you're going into your Evil's Ass. Sometimes you'll get to go into both, and that's nice. Bahama Shark is also just very good. But an Ash Blossom as well as 2 pops is fine. Genuinely just fine. And you'll find a lot of your hands are just that. Fine. This hand's awful too. I feel like we might just have too many trap monsters, but also I had a couple of hands there that saw none. This is crazy. We have a D-Shifter. My opponent cannot play the game. We have the Marionetta and 4 back row, essentially, which is 2 XEs, a Redoer, and a double barrel. Is fantastic here. And your opponent can't play the game for a turn. Realistically, as I said, the only reason you are playing this deck is because D-Shifter is at 3 in the deck, Macro is at 1. You can play Necro Valley, you can play whatever you want in this deck, and no one's going to stop you. The deck has so much versatility. You can just take out a couple more trap monsters and put in a few more floodgates and hand traps, and the deck does not mind. The Marionetta and Gamma is really conflicting. I'm not a fan of it, but at the same time, both these cards individually are just so good for this strategy. You will find yourself in situations where you're stuck deciding, do I summon the Marionetta and turn off my Gamma, or do I not do that? I think in most situations I would. In this situation where I've got 2 Gammas in hand, I'd at least summon the Marionetta. I wouldn't summon the Marionetta. I'd probably just set Macro, Swap Mirror, Pass, and then Gamma them immediately. But yeah, so this is easier to test against real people, and I should probably be doing that, testing it on Master Duel or something, but here we are. It's just a basic tutorial on a very basic deck. The hard part is obviously your activation time. You don't want to ever put yourself in a situation where this is Chain Link 3. Well, like Chain Link 3 with like these being Chain Link 1. Obviously, if they've done 2 things, yeah, sure. But you don't want these to activate and come to the field and then this. So learn your chain timing. And this is a good deck to be learning that if you are new to the game, because it forces you to learn it or lose. Thank you for joining me. We're going to come back next week with another deck. Probably Despots. Let's be real. I like Despots. And we may as well just rip that band-aid off because it is a nice, cute little deck. And do you want to shuffle your opponent's hand field and graveyard on the first turn? Because So I like to do that. And boy, can despots do that now. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.